Good afternoon and welcome to the 2025 celebration of Women's History Month. This year, the theme for Women's History Month is Moving Forward Together, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations. Although Women's History Month is in March, we are celebrating a little early this year. Did you know that in 1980, President Jimmy Carter signed a proclamation for Women's History Week, but by 1987 it had been expanded to Women's History Month, a month-long celebration and acknowledgement of the dedication, contributions, and inspiration of women through the world. To begin our assembly, we turn it over to the middle school, which will be showcasing women who inspire people through education and who have changed the world.
One of the women we are celebrating today is Katherine Johnson, who was born in 1918 and passed away in February 2020. She became a mathematician and NASA employee whose work was instrumental in the success of the first U.S. manned space flight, the mission to Mars, and the Space Shuttle program. There would not be a U.S. space program without her. Marie Curie was born in 1867 and died in 1934. She was a Polish physicist and chemist. She is most famous for her work with radioactivity. She is the first woman to win the Nobel Prize, but she is also the first person and woman to win it twice as well as the only person ever to win the Nobel Prize in two different sciences.
Nina Hall was born in 1959. She is a Danish physicist who is currently a professor at Harvard University. She developed the technology to be able to stop light. The speed of light is 300 million meters per second, and she was able to make it stop, which helped lead to advances in quantum computing. She currently teaches physics and applied physics at Harvard University and participates in speaking engagements all over the world.
Last but certainly not least is Patsy Tokomoto Mee, who was best known as the first woman of color to be elected to Congress in her 12th term. She campaigned for women's rights and equal pay, Title IX, and focused on many issues affecting Asian and Pacific Americans.
Before her involvement in politics, Meek applied to many medical schools with her degree in chemistry and zoology, but all of them rejected her. However, she did not give up on pursuing an advanced degree, and the University of Chicago's law school later accepted her.
After graduating, she returned to Hawaii and started her own law practice. She held many location positions in Hawaii before being elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1965.
Now let's turn it over to our next group of middle school students who will be showcasing 4 women you've maybe never heard of before. Each of these women broke barriers in their fields and continue to inspire us all.
Mary Shelley was awesome. Born in 1797, she was a pioneering English novelist, best known for her groundbreaking work, Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. She was the daughter of philosopher William Godwin and writer Mary Wollstonecraft. At just 18 years old, Mary Shelley wrote the story of Frankenstein during a summer visit to Lord Byron's villa by Lake Geneva. The novel, published in 1818, is often considered one of the earliest examples of science fiction and explores profound themes about the consequences of unchecked scientific ambition and the nature of humanity. Mary Shelley's life was filled with tragedy, including the deaths of her husband, poet Percy Shelley, and their children. She continued writing and published other notable works. Her legacy endures through her contributions to literature and the enduring cultural impact of Frankenstein, which remains a seminal work in the realms of both horror and science fiction.
In 2018, director Guillermo del Toro, during his award acceptance speech for the movie The Shape of Water, thanked a woman who had been dead for more than 150 years. He said, "So many times when I want to give up, when I think about giving up, I think of her."
He is talking about Mary Shelley, born August 30th, 1797, and died February 1st, 1851, who is best known for her novel Frankenstein, published in 1818. This novel was written after entering into a contest with other writers about who could write the scariest story.
But when she tried to get published, most assumed her husband had written it, or at the very least, helped her write it. Most scholars today mark Frankenstein as the first comprehensive science fiction novel, giving birth to a new genre in literature.
Frankenstein, the novel, celebrated its 200 years publication in 2018, and Guillermo del Toro has his film version of his favorite novel coming out in November this year.
By the way, Frankenstein is the doctor, not the monster. Dorothy Woolfolk was the first female editor of DC's comics and the one who, after a Martian that Superman was born in, famously helped create Kryptonite as a foil against Superman's strength, making him vulnerable and invincible.
She wrote, without credit, for Wonder Woman, helping create and edit several stories for that series. She also edited a 7-issue of Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, creating stories in which Lois leaves Superman, moves in with some girlfriends, and begins to vocally support and discuss the ideas of feminism.
In one of the pages of this famous series, pictured on the screen behind me, Lois tells Superman, "Sorry, Superman, I can't be the girl you come back to between missions. I can't live in your shadow. I've got things to do."
Lois continues saying, "Face it, the world needs Superman more than I do. I still love you, but I have my own life to live."
A significant first book for me was Bright April by Marguerite Angeline. And I don't remember who put that book in my hand, but somebody knew that a little girl who was brown and had pigtails needed a book that reflected her. With children, it's so important that they see themselves, but then they're exposed to the world. So we like to say books can be mirrors and windows. It's important that a woman is put in a position because it's one of the feminized professions. 85% of the workforce is female. However, in most of the directorships and management positions, that's not reflected. And so to have a woman be the Librarian of Congress is just as significant as the diversity in terms of culture. So I'm delighted to be a female Librarian of Congress.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Dr. Carla Hayden is the first female African American to hold the position of the Librarian of Congress. As the head of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., the Librarian of Congress holds a broad range of responsibilities, including naming the U.S. Poet Laureate.
She also has to keep up with all the new technology and how it transforms our access to information. She makes sure that people are not violating our copyright law, or as we like to say here, plagiarism.
We're going to take you to a place where the sky is only the limit. ABC's Martha Raddatz has been in war zones with 4-star generals, covered the White House, and questioned world leaders and president. But right now, she's going to take us to meet one of America's most daring combat experts, the woman just named the first female leader of a fighter wing 5,000 strong.
It is one of the most fearsome fighter jets in the skies, the F-15 Strike Eagle, and I could not be in more capable hands. Colonel Jeannie Flynn Levin is not only a decorated fighter pilot, she has broken through gender barriers few thought possible.
He said, "You realize that if you go fly fighters, you will be the first, and there'll be some attention." And I said, "Well, I don't want the attention. But I want to fly fighters more than anything.
That was more than 20 years ago when she entered a world dominated by male swagger.
Plaque for the alternates is down in the ladies' room.
That attitude was not just in movies like Top Gun. Pentagon brass argued male bonding was critical.
If you want to make a combat unit ineffective, assign some women to it.
But like it or not, they were ordered to change. Since then, the 46-year-old Leavitt has logged more than 2,700 hours, 300 in combat over Iraq and Afghanistan, dropping bombs on enemy targets and avoiding enemy fire. Leavitt now trains others for combat, commanding a 5,000-person fighter wing. This day, a mock bombing raid in the skies over North Carolina.
What the Jets do first is a show of force, exactly what they would do if this was a real battle. The changes with the women flying combat aircraft. There's pilots and lasers, a lot of different skill levels. Girls don't stand out anymore. It's very true.
And the Colonel and others have inspired a new generation.
Regardless of your gender, I think everyone's going to look up to her, or everyone does look up to her.
The fact that, gender, race, religion, none of that matters. What matters is how you perform.
And she has performed one of the best of the best. So take that, Maverick. Martha Raddatz, ABC News, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base.
Retired Brigadier General Jenny Leavitt was an Air Force general who became the first woman combat pilot in the Air Force, eventually flying over 300 combat missions. She is the first woman to command a fighter combat wing. In 2016, she became the first woman to command the 57th Wing of the Air Force at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. Before becoming an Air Force pilot, she earned a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. But since becoming an Air Force pilot, Air Force officer, she has earned an additional 3 master's degrees. She is a highly decorated officer, earning several awards, including the Bronze Star and the Legion of Merit. But General Leavitt also held another position as an expert consultant for Brie Larson's character Captain Marvel in the film Captain Marvel.
Let's give a round of applause for our middle school students. Next, a group of upper school students will read speeches from women who made great strides in their respective fields, whether that is by being a forthright voice for women in the political arena, by calling for reforms in the way young women and children are treated, by crafting interesting and heartwarming stories about women and their relationships, or by taking a stand and protecting the rights of women and children from the Supreme Court bench.
In 1995, Hillary Clinton's speech at the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing marked a watershed moment for women's rights. What makes this speech so inspirational isn't just the words she spoke, but where she spoke them. Defying both U.S. administration and Chinese pressure to dilute her remarks, she went for the jugular. It was a full-blown attack against policies abusing unheard women around the globe, not just in China. As Hillary Clinton once said, if there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights, once and for all. Let us not forget that among those rights are for the right to speak freely and the right to be heard.
Malala, shot by the Taliban at 15 for going to school, she did not let that stop her from taking a stand. At the age of 17, Malala was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for her work fighting for the right of women to gain education. As the youngest winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, the activist's powerful acceptance speech is one not to be forgotten. I am those 66 million girls who are deprived of education, and today I am not raising my voice. It is the voice of those 66 million girls. Sometimes people like to ask me why girls should go to school. Why is it important to them? But I think the more important question is why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they have this right to go to school? Let us become the first generation that decides to be the last that sees an empty classroom, lost childhoods, and wasted potentials.
Let this be the last time that a girl or boy spends their childhood in a factory. Let this be the last time that a girl is forced into early child marriage. Let this end with us. Let's begin this ending together, today, right here, right now. Let's begin this ending now.
Nora Ephron is an American author, playwright, screenwriter, and film director who died in 2012. Once said, "Whatever you choose, however many roads you travel, I hope that you choose not to be a lady. I hope you will find some way to break the rules and make a little trouble out there. And I also hope that you will choose to make some trouble on behalf of women. Above all, be the heroine of your life, not the victim."
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice who passed away in 2021, said, "As you leave here and proceed along life's paths, try to leave tracks. Use the education you have received to help repair tears in your communities. Take part in efforts to move those communities, your nation, and our world closer to the conditions needed to ensure the health and well-being of your generation and generations following your own."
Let's give a round of applause for our upper school. Next, let's welcome to the stage 7th grader Miss Fifia Papa and her interpretive dance, which shows the resilience and strength of women against those who might stand against her.
Off this island, this was an escape place. Care for the time, did so let it go. And dive into the waves below. Victims, the others, who faces the cables, emotional torture. High table, who fetches the water. Again to feel your words and I shall stay. And again tired. Look at the reason why.
I'm skinny girl. How you doing? We teach girls to shrink themselves, make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. You should aim to be successful, but not too successful. Otherwise, you threaten the man.
Don't know, but take my power, my power, my power. Don't know, but take my power, my power, my power. They feel away, oh wow. They feel away, oh wow.
This that lightning, this that bar, this ain't a car, this that happy, this that herb, this that kinfolk, this that skinfolk, this that war, this that bloodline, on the front line, ready for war, ready for war. Get it loose, 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 get it loose. Oh, gotta protect my praise, keep it locked in the face, don't let me get back on my ways, no power to never praise.
Let's give a round of applause for Fifi. Great job. Now, let's welcome to the stage Miss Dorsey's 8th grade drama class for an amazing performance.
All right, class. Today's presentations are about historical figures who inspire us. Who's up first?
Hit me! Hit me!
I picked Michael Jordan. Greatest of all time.
Oh, where is Ron Perry? Oh, we on the way, man.
I chose Madam T. Walker. She was the first black woman to become a celebrated millionaire.
Wait, Air Rock lady? That's cool, I guess, but...
What, you think really easy?
Exactly.
I
picked
Lotus Purchase. She fought for farm workers, and because of her, people got fair wages.
The president of changing the world.
What? Kalpana Chawla was the first Indian-born woman in space. She followed her dream no matter what.
Aren't there already tons of astronauts?
Yeah, but we don't have to fight. How come we have to work twice as hard just to get half the credit?
How often are we told we can't do something before we even try?
How come when a man is a business, he's a leader, but when a woman is a business, she's too much?
Last times have changed. Women can do anything now.
Really? And how come there are more CEOs named John than there are women CEOs?
How come girls are stunned until they don't belong? Thank you. Why did you laugh when Sophia spoke? Why did you brush out Tiana's choice? I guess we don't always see it, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't listen.
True. Yeah, if people doubted MJ before he made it, why wouldn't people doubt William Brick Barry too? So what do we do?
We don't wait for permission to be great.
No, we don't.
We push forward no matter what.
Yes, we do.
We don't apologize for doing things.
We fight for the ones who come after us.
We make history.
We take our shot.
Respect, equality, power. We take our shot, and so should you.
I know the action industry is exciting. Jesus, between all the bleed and fight, after reading and fight.
We need to handle our financial situation. Are we a nation of states with the state of our nation?
Pen takes me away and I'm painfully amazed. Every expectation, every action is an act of creation.
Laughing in the face of capitalism. How I'm thinking past tomorrow. And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. It all looks like I'm not here. I'm scrappy and I'm green. I'm not throwing away my shot. We gotta rise up. Time to take a shot. We gotta rise up. It's time to take a shot. We gotta rise up. Rise up. Time to take a shot. Rise up. Rise up. Time to take a shot. Rise up. Time to take a shot. Rise up. Take a shot. 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 Time to take a shot. Time to take a shot. And I am not throwing away my shot. Throwing away my shot.
Thank you to everyone who participated in our Women's History Month Assembly. Now, Ms. Burgess will end our assembly with the unbelievable story of a brave woman who is often dismissed, overlooked, and forgotten.
Thank you to all the students who participated in today's assembly. The stories of these women represent a tiny percentage of the millions of stories of brave, unflinching, courageous, and often overlooked women who have worked tirelessly to make this world a better place. With that spirit in mind, I would like to tell you one final story, the story of Virginia Hall, spy master of World War II.
They called her the Limping Lady, the Allied spy who topped the Nazis' most wanted list. This is the story of Virginia Hall, one of the most decorated special agents of the Second World War. She was born into a wealthy family in Baltimore in 1906 and was expected to marry into high society. Instead, she studied languages at both Radcliffe and Barnard College, traveled across Europe, and landed a job at the American Embassy in Warsaw. But when she was 27, tragedy struck, when Hall accidentally shot herself in the foot while hunting. The wound was so bad, she lost her leg from the knee down and was fitted with a wooden prosthetic. Hall faced an uncertain future, and when she applied to work as a diplomat for the U.S. Foreign Service, her application was denied. The door was barred to women and those with disabilities. Frustrated, Hall found work at the U.S. Embassy in London. And that's when a British Special Operations executive recruited her as a spy. After completing her training, Hall was given the code name Germaine and spent the next 2 years aiding the French resistance. She rescued downed Allied airmen, organized prisoners of war to escape, and sabotaged Nazi supply lines. Despite her initial success, all seemed lost when the Gestapo finally discovered her identity. But Hall escaped, crossing the Pyrenees into Spain, and later returned to France on a speedboat disguised as an old lady, this time for the U.S. Office of Foreign Strategic Services. Approaching D-Day, when Allied forces launched an all-or-nothing attack on mainland Europe, Hall's team derailed freight trains to cut off Nazi reinforcements. And when the Allies secured victory, she was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, one of 2 women who received the medal during the war. Virginia Hall was discriminated against both for being a woman and for her disability. How did she overcome these prejudices?
Many of you have probably never heard of Virginia Hall, and her story is a fascinating one full of intrigue and drama, and yet that's not what I want you to remember most about her. Virginia Hall did not need to be a part of such dangerous operations. She did not need to risk her life to save others. Nevertheless, as World War II broke out in Europe, Virginia saw a chance to help people, to help stop the forces of Nazi Germany from taking over the world. She was on the front lines of the French resistance against the Nazi occupation, risking everything to help those in need. Despite her actions in the war, despite surviving a harrowing and life-threatening trek across the Pyrenees Mountains, and despite having helped ensure an Allied victory in France, Hall had to work harder than her male counterparts to gain the respect that she deserved and earned while working for the Central Intelligence Agency. Hall was passed over for promotions, recognition, and awards. However, today, with renewed interest and respect, she is now recognized as a founding member of the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States. More than ever, it's important that we hear and remember the stories of women who resisted, who pushed past the social expectations and norms to take a stand and fight where needed. Despite her prosthetic leg, despite at times not being recognized for the work she did, she never gave up. She never stopped fighting for what was right, what was good, and more importantly, what would help others. Virginia Hall, like so many women forgotten in history, should be and is an inspiration to us all. And as you leave here today, I want you to remember, like these women, to do these things. To stand up, to speak out, to fight back, and be on the right side of history. Thank you to all the students that participated today, and I want to give a special shout out to Ms. Etheridge, Mr. Kano, Ms. Dorsey, Mr. Ellis, and the booth crew up there, the upper school students that helped, and all these wonderful middle school students that put on this performance. I want you all to remember too that women's history is not just women's history, it's your history, it's our history, and we need to remember and think about that every day. So, thank the women in your life, whether it's your teachers, your mom, your cousins, your sisters, your friends. Thank them for all the hard work that they do every day. Thank you very much.